The observation chamber hummed with tension as General Vakris slammed his scaled fist against the reinforcement glass. Beyond it, in the sterile white containment room, three small figures huddled in the far corner, their ember-like eyes glowing with fear and defiance. 48 hours, Vakris growled, his reptilian features twisted in frustration. 48 hours and not one of your scientists can get within 10 meters of them. Dr. Holloway, the lead xenobiologist, adjusted his glasses nervously. Sir, they're traumatized. We found them in the wreckage of that Korvath warship, whatever they experienced. I don't care about their feelings, Doctor. Those cubs are the last surviving members of the Asher species. Their people built weapons that could fold space itself. We need to understand their biology, their genetics, their potential. Vakris turned his cold gaze to the window. The Galactic Council is breathing down our necks. If we can't study them, they'll be handed over to the Collective for humane rehabilitation. He spat the last words like poison. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. The Collective's rehabilitation centers were where inconvenient species went to be forgotten. We've tried everything, another scientist offered weakly. Tranquilizers don't work on their physiology. Force fields only make them more aggressive. And the stun protocols nearly killed the smallest one. Holloway interrupted sharply. Sir, with respect, these aren't specimens. They're children. Vakris's eye ridge twitched. Then find me someone who can handle children. That's when Captain Mira spoke from the back of the room. Let me try. Every head turned. The human officer had been standing so still they'd nearly forgotten she was there. She stepped forward, her boots clicking against the polished floor. Vakris's nostrils flared. You're a fighter pilot, Captain, not a... I grew up with 7 younger siblings on a frontier colony, Mira said calmly, meeting his gaze without flinching. And I've seen what fear looks like in a child's eyes, regardless of what species they are. This is absurd, Vakris began. But Dr. Holloway raised a hand. General, at this point, what do we have to lose? If Captain Mira fails, we're no worse off than we are now. Vakris stared at the human for a long moment, then waved dismissively. Fine, you have 1 hour. But if those cubs attack you, we're sedating them regardless of the consequences. Mira nodded and made her way to the containment room entrance. Through the glass, she could see them more clearly now. The cubs were small, no larger than human toddlers, with sleek obsidian fur that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were feline in structure, but their eyes held an intelligence that made her chest ache. They weren't just afraid. They were grieving. She entered the airlock, hearing the hiss of pressurization. The door slid open and she stepped into the containment room. The reaction was immediate. The 3 cubs pressed harder against the wall, their small bodies trembling. One hissed, showing needle-sharp teeth. Another made a keening sound that reminded Mira of her youngest sister crying after a nightmare. Mira didn't advance. Instead, she sat down cross-legged on the floor, several meters away from them. She could feel the eyes of the observation room on her back, could imagine Vakris's impatient scowl. My name is Mira, she said softly, not moving. I know you're scared. I know you don't understand why you're here. The cubs watched her warily. One of them, slightly larger than the others with a white patch on his chest, tilted his head. I can't imagine what you've been through, Mira continued, her voice steady and low. You've lost your family, your home. And now you're surrounded by strangers who see you as things to study. She paused, swallowing the anger those words brought. But I want you to know something. I'm not here to hurt you. She slowly reached into her jacket pocket. The cubs tensed and she froze, waiting. When they didn't bolt, she carefully withdrew a small object, a worn cloth doll with mismatched button eyes. This belonged to my little sister Lena, Mira said, holding it where they could see. She gave it to me before I left for the military academy. She said it would keep me safe. She smiled sadly. It's silly, but sometimes when I'm scared or alone, I hold this and remember that someone cares about me. She set the doll on the floor between them and withdrew her hand. Minutes passed. The room was silent except for the gentle hum of the ventilation system. Mira didn't move, didn't speak. She simply sat, present but unthreatening. Then the cub with the white patch took a tentative step forward. The other 2 grabbed at him, their small chirps sounding like protests, but he gently pulled away. His ember eyes locked on Mira's face, searching for something. It's okay, Mira whispered. Take your time. The cub moved closer, each step deliberate. When he was within arm's reach, he paused, his small chest rising and falling rapidly. Mira remained perfectly still. Finally, he reached out with a tiny paw and touched the doll. His fingers traced the worn fabric, the mismatched buttons. Then, to everyone's shock, he picked it up and looked at Mira. "You can hold it," she said gently, "if you want to." The cub clutched the doll to his chest and, in a voice that carried the weight of loss and loneliness, spoke his first words in halting galactic common. "Ren. My name. Ren." Mira felt tears prick her eyes but kept her voice steady. "Hello, Ren, it's good to meet you." Ren's ears twitched and he looked back at his companions. He made a soft chirping sound, encouraging. Slowly, the other two cubs began to move forward. In the observation room, General Vakra stood speechless as the human captain opened her arms, and one by one, the three Ashir cubs stepped into her embrace. "What did she do?" a scientist whispered in awe. Dr. Holloway smiled, wiping his own eyes. "She treated them like people." Within the hour, the cubs were relocated to proper quarters. They wouldn't allow anyone else near them, except Captain Mira. She became their guardian, their translator, their link to a universe that had taken everything from them. And when the Galactic Council came demanding the cubs be turned over, they found three small voices speaking in perfect unison, with a human captain standing behind them. "We stay with Mira," Ren said firmly, his ember eyes bright with determination. The Council, for once, had no response. Humanity had done it again, not through force or technology, but through something far more powerful: compassion.